What's up, everybody? It's Anerae, also known as X-Rated. I'm here with Thizzler. Subscribe below. Well, CDCR is an interesting animal. And so I left San Diego chained up. I'm wearing my street clothes, but I got on shackles and manacles. And they put me in a little cage in a van and drove me up here, even though all my family members were waiting for me outside because, you had a few people that was just inadequate in their job or were deliberately being inept. And so they list me as a transient, even though I own a home in the gated community. I got a condominium, I own my cars, I own my business, but I'm a transient though, right? So for that reason, they sent me on a high-powered escort. And as a public interest case, technically when I used to go to the dentist or the doctor, they always had to move me like I was a threat because they listed me as a high-profile case and with enough money to be able to do something stupid if I so chose, have some people ambush the cops or whatever. And so I'm like, on my way home, they still treated me like that. So I got to psychologically ride in this car, in this van, conscious that my family was down south waiting for me at the gate. And my wife had to fly up here and technically beat me here. So when I pull up into the parole division, she was in the parking lot waiting for me. And my PO come out and he telling me, take the chains off of me, man. Why you got chains on? It was a trip. And they were all apologetic, like, hey man, that's the way the paper said. So that's what we did. So I had to really deal with the psychology of, wow, I'm free, but I'm chained up. And then relax, it's gonna be all right. This don't mean nothing. Because on some level, it's like I'm about to experience some negativity. And so I had to rationalize to myself why that's gonna be all right. So seeing the trees, I looked out the window, watched the sky and told myself, bro, this is just 1 second, deal with it. So when I finally got to my family, my wife, I was extremely grateful. And I think the first thing I did when I walked out was went to a tree and got a bar of a leaf because I realized I hadn't touched a tree in 26 years. A tree, something we take for granted, a leaf. And so I was like, what the fuck is a tree? And I knew that was gonna happen because one time I went to the doctor and when they took me out the van chained up, there was a tree right there and it was overwhelming for me emotionally. I'm like, damn, why am I tripping off of this tree? But I hadn't seen a tree in 26 years. So just that, so the touch one was a trip, it was a trip. But I was filled with joy and gratitude, and happy to be close to home. I tripped off of the way the people were, the disconnect. I came home happy to be around humans again. In the pen, almost everybody's in character all the time. So it's like being trapped in the WWE, I don't get to meet Dwayne Johnson, it's all Rock. It's all the Hulk. It ain't Terry, it's the Hulk. And so that's how it was. You walking around, everybody got a name and they trying to live up to it. I'm Dog, and now you barking. I got a homie named Baby Snake and everything he do got something to do with some hissing. We get in these characters. And so the psychology of that, once I started changing my life and getting educated, I started seeing some of the insanity that we had embraced as a normal part of reality. And that was difficult. So I was eager to get home and be around people who were just people and be connected. But what I saw was people staring at their phones and just moving. And I'm smiling at them and they just moving. And people don't smile at people. This the town, don't be talking to people, you know what I mean? I'm like, well, I can't say hi, you know what I mean? Or I tried to buy everybody food at a Subway. And it was so hard to just buy the food, I got it, don't trip. And they had it was so difficult for them to just accept that love. It was harmful for me. I walked out of there fucked up. I was like, damn. I was like, why is it so hard for y'all to take love? I just want to buy you some food. And I don't believe it had nothing to do with what I looked like, nothing like that. It wasn't race. It was just people just weren't receptive to kindness, bro. And that fucked me up. That fucked me up. Because I had a childlike innocence in my perspective to what I was going to encounter when I got out here. And I was like, I can't wait to be around people, people. And so that was a little disturbing. But I found them. I started finding the people that weren't disconnected, and a lot of them were people like y'all in the business, you know, that are working on and happen to be open. People that are artists, a lot of artists, and that's where I ended up finding that love and comfort. Like, this is my home. Hip hop is my home, and that's where the love came from, and where my joy started happening at when I got to work. I think the technology, the advancements in the technology was one of the biggest changes. It's like, I remember, you know, I'm one of them historical fuck ups. So I did juvenile hall, I did the county programs, I did the CYA, county jail. I went through just like people do elementary school, kindergarten, elementary school, junior high. I did juvenile hall, I did that way. And so we used to have a saying, we used to be like, Buck Rogers, that nigga got a Buck Rogers date, meaning it's 1996, we like, that nigga ain't coming home till 2010. And we used to call it Buck Rogers. And being, you know, they had a saying, beady, beady, beady on the show, you know what I mean? Like, this nigga ain't never coming home, he got a beady, beady, beady. And so now I come home and it's like the Jetsons out here. You know what I mean? The cars parking themselves. You just push the button, the car just like, I parallel park you, don't trip. You know what I mean? The car start talking to a nigga. I'm laying in the bed with my bitch. I'm like, yeah, man, what's up with this Alexa shit? The bitch start talking to me, you know what I mean? Can I help you with something? I'm like, Alexa, be quiet. She's like, I don't know what you want. You know what I mean? That was a trip. Like, what the fuck is in my house? It's Skynet in the house, you know what I mean? So that was a trip. That was a trip. But it's beautiful though, you know what I mean? Jump on Amazon and get some shit and the drone drop it off. It's like, that's critical. You know what I mean? What the fuck? Like, when I got out, before I got locked up, you better take your ass to the store. You know what I mean? You want some shoes? You better go get them things before they gone. Now it's like, man, I could just buy them from Japan and they be here in like 2 days. Drone just show up and drop that shit off. That shit is deep. They got a hub at my condo. I literally just get an email and be like, you got some shit downstairs. I'll tell a homie, man, can you grab that for me, bro? He'd be like, yep. And it just be some boxes in the house. So I'm like, this is crazy as fuck. Teleporting shit. So that's a trip to encounter from 1992 to 2018, you know. We order some shit. I used to order some shit from East Bay. That shit would take like a week or two. You'd be waiting for your Jordans. I'll be like, man, I need my Jordans. You're fiending for them motherfuckers. Now you just go online. Should be there tomorrow. If you got the right kind of paper, they show up. Your shit will show up in an hour. That's crazy as fuck. It's a backwards ass way to make hip hop history. I'm a historian. Like I said, I love this culture. Dr. Dre called himself the Watcher on the Chronic 2001. I was really in the pen looking out the window like, I want to play. You know, I want to play. I was under the underground. I say I rap from hell. And that's a part of that concept with X-Rated. I was rapping from hell just to penetrate the underground. You know, I was a level under being in the pen trying to get an album out just to hit the underground and then hope that somebody saw me at a level above that. But, you know, my ultimate experience was when it came to the music, or even having evidence used against me in trial, be honorable toward the culture. So I'm not the kind of person that need to take credit for that. What I know is that Schoolie D went through what he went through before I did. And so even they say the gangster rap, who was first and all of that, I'm conscious of the existence of Schoolie D and the Parkside Killers and that whole movement in Philly and him getting arrested for killing a police officer and being put on death row, and him having some of his music used against him in that trial. So I may not have been first. There's an argument that I had the most impactful experience, but that brother was on death row. And I don't know how much they used that against him and put him there. But that's a devastating, ugly experience right there for him and his victims, you know, family and his victim. And so for me, they used the lyrics against me. They used the album cover against me, and they put me on trial for being an ugly person. They put me on trial for being a gang member, put me on trial for being a rapper, while telling the jury that I didn't kill nobody. So they told the jury we understand that concept, you know. However, aiding and abetting, conspiracy, they argued all the reasons why and made the jury believe that I was someone they should be afraid of and shouldn't want free. So it wasn't about if I should have been locked up for what I did. They tapped out on that. We're not accusing him of killing nobody. Forensics said I didn't kill nobody. So they really just used the music to demonstrate that I was ugly enough to justify incarceration. And now, so I'm responsible for allowing that to be true. However, they're responsible for not having the decency not to utilize that particular method on a child, which is illegal to do nowadays, right? And which that goes to the point of it lacking decency, that the California Supreme Court and the United States Supreme Court have decided that that's not something they're willing to allow to happen to somebody in the future. So maybe my experience contributed to that. Then I wrote Deadly Game for Sibo. And they go arrest the homie, arrest Sibo, put him in prison and say that he made threats against law enforcement. And so twice my lyrics got used against somebody in court. And they ultimately, because of the strength of his attorneys and his representation, had to let that go. But they violated him for having Dirty P and locked him up. But so that's twice in hip hop history that I've been responsible, you know, both my niggas. So I called on a conference call, they punched us both on the phone. He like, yo, black ass got me locked up. Yo, black ass got me locked up, you know. So my apologies, big homie. I'm just trying to write bars, that's it. But so that's twice, man, an ugly way that I made hip hop history. So the execution of X-Rated is about the defeating of a psychology. I went to prison. I didn't have a value for human life. I didn't have a value for my own life. I didn't have a value. I didn't give a fuck that I went to prison. And I didn't give a fuck that I was a battery that powered the matrix. All I gave a fuck about was I'm gonna eat, a reptilian brain, I'm gonna eat and you're gonna respect me in the morning, nigga, period. That's what I lived for years. And woke up like, whoa. I got a kid, my daughter was this big one day, and I'm in the SHU at Corcoran. I got a conspiracy to distribute controlled substances in the prison, and they ain't find no drugs. There wasn't no, you can't, if you don't have a possession, there's no distribution. It's not possible. How can I distribute something that don't exist? They throw me in the dungeon because they just don't like X-Rated. They ain't feeling Anerae Veshaughn. Lock me up. My wife bring my daughter to see me, and she cool on that window. She was all right for a second, but she started slapping that window, and she was like, what the fuck? It like occurred to her that it's a glass right here. She started kicking that shit and screaming. My girl had to leave, and they had to put me back in the dungeon by myself in a concrete shell. When I walked to the door and I look out the window, it was a white wall, bro. And if you look left, it's white wall, and you look right, it's white wall. You might entertain yourself seeing some ants or some spider walking. Watch a spider for an hour. That's my TV. There ain't no TV. It's a lot of time to think. And in that thinking, I realized that some of my psychologies didn't deserve to exist. They wasn't rooted in reality. So I wrote a personal constitution. These are things I believe. These are things I disbelieve. And I created a father for myself out of the writings of Robert Kennedy, the writings of Martin Luther King, the stuff that Malcolm said, the stuff that I read from Jesus, the stuff I read from Muhammad, the stuff I read from Solomon, David. I created a father for myself. And I said, I'm gonna take this advice collectively and build myself into a new person. So the execution of X-Rated is about the death of a psychology and the birth of a new perspective, a social consciousness, and awareness of the political forces that create circumstances where they lock people up that look like me, disproportionate to our representation in the population of this country. And do I accept that I got a responsibility to come? I can't come home, bro, and say something other than that, man. I'm watching niggas come home from the pen and act like that shit was a badge of honor and make our kids think that it's cool to go to the prison. And I could tell you the niggas that did that when I was on the street, because they did. They used to come home, they used to throw barbecues for these niggas. Like a hood celebrity just came home. And so my own big homies, I'm in the pen, level 4 on 180 design yards, 270 design yards with all day. You got 25 to life, 31 to life. They put you in maximum security. It don't matter what your crime was. So the nigga that stole pizza is with the nigga that killed 9 people. They put y'all together based on the sentence. And so I'm on the yard and they got these gyms that are so you know, they so overcrowded now, they putting triple decker beds in the gyms. Them shits look like slave ships. And so these brothers is in the gym and we out here in this war zone, and I got big homies coming out that gym talking about what we supposed to do on the yard. And I'm listening to them niggas and I'm thinking, you the same one came home with your muscles and your tattoos talking about this shit was cool. And you in the gym, nigga. We out here. That's like a nigga with a radio telling y'all you gotta go on the front line and get shot at. But like, where you at with this radio though? You in a command center, bro. You ain't out here risking your life. And so I started seeing these niggas coming home from these 2-year bids. You ain't hitting the yard, nigga. You ain't out here risking your life over this shit. Period. Crip, Blood, Pyru, Kumi, we all had to be together because they didn't give a fuck what you represented. If a Blood pissed off the inmate, nigga, they was gonna slash a Crip. They was gonna slash an old elder. They didn't give a fuck which black it was. So we had to get together immediately. You be happy to see a Pyru. You a Crip, happy to see a Pyru walking to breakfast. You happy to see a nigga from Oakland. You better be happy to see him because it's all bad. You in a pack of motherfuckers want to cut your head off for the way you look. That's the reality of it. And so what I learned was a motherfucker that go to the pen and tell you that shit was cool is the equivalent of a slave that escaped the South, made it to the North and told you it was cool to be a slave. That's what these niggas are on my mama. And that's how I feel about them. And it's a lot of them, bro. And I'll get specific because I don't give a fuck. I came home on some real life. I'm with the business and it don't matter to me, but it's a lot of them that came home with their chains and their teeth talking about what the pen was like, and that's a badge of honor. Nigga, you mislead a generation into thinking that's something that they gotta do, that's college. That shit ain't college, nigga. It wasn't cool to be in the field picking cotton and getting whipped. So you ain't never hear Harriet Tubman tell you how cool it was to be a slave. They ain't got that on record nowhere. But you got a gang of prisoners on record talking about what it was like in the pen and I'm a boss. And so I came home like, nigga, that shit ain't cool. The pen wasn't cool. It ain't cool to be anxious, worried about your life in the morning, worried about drama that don't got nothing to do with you, worried about, am I gonna make it to my visit this weekend because this motherfucker sold some fake dope to a white supremacist, and this nigga's powerful, this white boy powerful and ready to kill everybody? Everybody ain't got the power to call it, and they coming 100 deep with knives and hatchets, and the cops is giving it to them because the police playing politics now. So you walk out and you black and you getting patted down, but you walk out and you white and you don't. Who got all the knives in the yard then, right? So we better be good. You better be good with them elbows and them knees and knees, cause it's all bad. That ain't cool, bro. That ain't cool. And so I came home to let people know. My nigga Kendrick Lamar is a witness. That nigga's like Frederick Douglass, but I'm Harriet Tubman. I was a slave. And I got out that shit, and I'm trying to get other people out on my Underground Railroad. My nigga Kendrick is a Frederick Douglass writing about what he's experiencing as an abolitionist. But I'm telling you, this is what I experienced sitting in that motherfucking cell, and that shit wasn't cool, bro. And I don't want no kids to experience that. And if that mean I gotta say X-rated and his psychology gotta die for me to be able to have this conversation, then so be it. He gotta go, period. And so I'm gonna make some records under that name because that character gotta live. The people want him to live, and I want to live. So I need to have my money. I got a business, Blockstar Entertainment. So we're gonna drop the Return of the Living Dead X-rated. I'm gonna drop the I Ain't Dead Yet. But ultimately, you know, I can't be the person who come home and tell you it was cool to be in prison, bro, because that'll be a dishonesty to me that disrespects the faith that got me home. And I got the fear in me, bro. I'm afraid to do some bitch shit like that, period.